just introduce myself. My name is Rui Tong Cui. I am from the University of Manchester, the Department of Materials. I am Dr. Rosie Boardman and Dr. Claudia Henniger's student. And what I would like to present to you today is a systematic literature review of blockchain technology for fashion rental. So exploring opportunities, challenges, and future research directions. So before I begin my main talk, I'd like to explain that this is one of my thesis paper. I am writing a journal for my thesis for my doctoral research, which includes an overarching introduction, 3 sequential but separate papers with 2 bridging chapters, and an overarching conclusion. And today I'd like to present with you one of those 3 papers, which is paper 1. Okay. Now, the purpose of my presentation today is to introduce to you fashion rental, as well blockchain technology, and trying to convince you that through my research, this isn't just a whimsical idea or short-term trend, but rather a powerful social and economic force that can transform the fashion industry and the way we interact with it to create smarter and more sustainable fashion. So first, I will give a brief overview of the significance of fashion rental and the meaning behind blockchain technology. Then I will introduce my problem statement and my research questions. After that, I will go through my methods of investigation and looking at some of my important findings. This is supposed to be a face-to-face interactions, but since we're on Zoom, if possible, can we have some hands up, or if you want to unmute yourself? So how many of you have a piece of clothing or an accessory, you know you won't wear it, but it's still lying in your wardrobe, but you just wouldn't want to throw away? All right, so I think it looks like everyone. This is a problem, isn't it? As we are being left with more unwanted items and perhaps less disposable income to spend on those unnecessary goods. We still want to buy more in order to follow certain fashion trends. So as this response to such a market gap, fashion innovators have engaged in many disruptive innovations. And one example I want to show you is fashion rental. So fashion rental is an assets-based sharing business model that provides garments and accessories to extend their lifespan and to reduce fashion consumption and production. According to research, fashion rental is very important in terms of facilitating sustainable practices in the fashion industry, as well as the survival and growth of entrepreneurs which are built on those platforms. And based on the most recent fashion marketing insights, the global fashion rental market is expected to be worth around $900 million in 2020, and by 2027, it is estimated to reach to $1,600 million. So let's now move on to my problem statement. Why is this very important for me to study? So as far as the growth of fashion rental is concerned, the academic research on fashion rental is very, very niche and specialized because of its smaller industry-wide impact than the mainstream fashion, and the fact that it is most often embedded in a broader industry conversation. So there appears to be a lack of systematic and comprehensive analysis in this area of research. There has also been research suggesting that in order to address those challenges of this kind of business model, there are strategic constraints. But in light of the industry's adoption of digital technology and sustainable practices, it has been identified that blockchain technology can potentially bring positive outcomes for rental models, which I think can be realized by the fashion industry. This technology is very unique in terms of its capacity to increase fashion transparency, a dedication to sustainability for the industry. So for me, as a researcher, what I really find interesting is how the use of technology can and is currently transforming the fashion industry's practices. And the idea which I would like you to also consider is that we can better understand major business model disruptions and technological transformations through the concept of utilizing blockchain. So many of you may think of blockchain as a buzzword. So what is a blockchain? What does it do? What does it mean? By definition, a blockchain is a digital database or an infrastructure that records information in a way that makes it difficult to change, hack, or cheat in a system. It was essentially used in trading, but if we take an example, let's look at the diagram I'm showing you right now. So let's say when you make an online transaction, the data, it could be a fashion brand's name, or it could be a direct message between peers on a platform. This information is stored as blocks, and then the data is publicly accessible for everyone on that network to see. The transaction is maintained by every participant on the chain, meaning that everyone has a complete copy. The network, so everybody on the chain, then approves this transaction, which is processed in a chronological order that is time-spanned and cannot be tampered with. This means that blockchain technology can trace the entire transaction history. Then the transaction ends. So this is how a blockchain would work in a simplified way. But today, I like to define blockchain as an infrastructure that can underpin trust and true sharing for fashion platform and for data sharers. Therefore, the purpose of my research is to determine the state of fashion rental knowledge and the extent to which blockchain technology has been adopted and can be adopted by established fashion rental platforms, and also to examine the feasibility of blockchain technology as a growth catalyst for fashion rental platforms. So following Daniel and Transfield's methods, I am conducting a 5-staged systematic review for this paper. My research questions was formulated through the SLR process. So my main research question is, to what extent does current research that simultaneously focuses on both fashion rental and blockchain technology identify opportunities for blockchain technology to meet those challenges that fashion rental platforms are facing? And the sub-questions are formulated as the skeletons of the main research question in response to the identified research gaps. So what studies have been conducted on fashion rental and blockchain technology? My SLR found 37 articles total to analyze and synthesize, which isn't a lot. And the articles were found from 2018 to 2022. We see that an increase in publication beginning in 2020. I think that this confirms with scholars or the academics' interest in this area. And if we look at the diagram on the right, the Asia Pacific appears to be the leader in terms of research contribution, with China, Hong Kong, and India producing the most recent research publications. This suggests that a concentration of this research may be influenced by, for example, local conditions, concerns, or any research priorities and capabilities. And if we evaluate each paper in greater detail, This is the knowledge map generated by Voice Viewer. So if you see on the left, we see that the keywords have been categorized into different clusters, and each clusters represent a very unique topic or an area of knowledge. And I think what is notable here is that all of the clusters are interconnected and not mutually exclusive. And this suggests that they share actually similar concepts and span across multiple domains. And on the right, it shows the research area trends. So earlier research tends to focus on collaborative consumption, platform operations, and operational management, which you see in the darkish blue color. And by mid-2020, blockchain and supply chain management, the ones which are in green, became the more popular topics. And current research emphasizes more onto the digital part, so digital technology, design, and implementations, which is in the yellowish color. So to further synthesize each article's found, 4 categories of themes are developed. And the first and most notable impact, I would say, is blockchain's ability to improve supply chain transparency and traceability. So blockchain does this by recording and exchanging real-time information about the status of each action or transactions at each stages of the supply chain. For example, Troy 2019 found that blockchain is used to trace product history and fashion ownership, which it has a very important role, especially for the luxury goods and diamond traceability. In addition, Troy and Yang 2021 also stated that blockchain can simplify user authentication and possibly eliminates supply chain coordination issues. This is because the goal of blockchain is to establish a more direct peer-to-peer communication instead of going through a central intermediary. Trust building is another aspect of interest. So research shows that trust cannot be built on a centralized system with an intermediary, which in this case is the rental platform. But on the other hand, blockchain technology is distributed, so it can make the centralized server less vulnerable. So it makes it possible for the sharing platforms to set up truly decentralized markets. Furthermore, blockchain can help supply chain partners to access the same information and potentially reduce communication and transmission errors. This means that the data on a blockchain system can be traced into the future, which can help to build trust. And the third theme is blockchain protects participants' privacy and security. So one problem with this system of rental platform is that it allows only the authorized users to edit entries stored on a central server. So data proliferation and data sharing have been raised as a hidden cause of data security problems. Research showed that blockchain can trace financial fraud. So when blockchain is used, information stored is stored in order and cannot be changed. So this method becomes very secure to keep track of transactions through a database that is shared between the public and the private entities. And last but not least is blockchain can help to reduce transaction cost for platform operations. Troy 2020, well, I've cited a lot of his papers. So he suggested that platforms can act as a third-party service with sufficiently high fees of maintenance, that blockchain can fundamentally change the specificity of the time and human elements of the transaction cost. He et al. 2022 also stated that reducing transaction cost is essential to improve the productivity of business processes and transactions involving the exchange of goods. Therefore, blockchain technology is a very unique opportunity for the fashion industry in the platform operation and supply chain management, but we know that this technology is still emerging. So there are still some outstanding open points and implications that need to be addressed further. This comes to what are the implications of blockchain technology for fashion rental businesses in terms of practices and future research. So overall, there appears to be very little existing literature on this topic, but research interest we see is growing rapidly. First, there is still room for improvement in establishing infrastructure framework and demonstrating how blockchain technology can be used in fashion logistics and supply chain operations. And second of all, amongst other things, trust appears to be an issue for both online and offline peer-to-peer transactions, and there have been little solutions investigating how to address trust-related issues. So blockchain for less trusted systems could potentially become a future research focus. In addition, a lack of consumer knowledge may also hinder blockchain's diffusion. So how can we build consumer trust in new technologies may also be very interesting to study. And finally, as blockchain has the potential to disrupt current fashion practices, we also need to rethink the roles of fashion platforms and potentially develop new ways of assessing fashion. In my conclusion, these are my SLR results. This review, I think, it provides a novel perspective and methodology on how blockchain technology can help fashion rental businesses. But I'm not saying we don't or will never need a platform or a traditional central authority, but what we cannot deny is how new technologies are as if natural extensions of the internet through society, creating major shifts away from those traditional reactivities towards more redesigned emphasis on sustainability and ethics, as well as newer trends in the digital acceleration and local consumptions. My ways forward, because this is my paper one, currently I am working on developing my methodologies for paper 2 and 3. Paper 2, I intend to focus on the industry perspective on the conditions and context of blockchain applications for fashion rental, specifically also looking at the luxury brands that are opening to the rental landscape. And for my third paper, I want to explore the consumer perspectives on trust in emerging technologies integrating onto platforms. And last but not least, this paper has been considered for publications by the Technological Forecasting and Social Change. It is currently under review, so fingers crossed. And I am hopefully publishing this with my supervisors, Dr. Claudia Henniger and Dr. Rosie Boardman. This is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for all of your attention.